Welcome to South Olympic Branch update number 7. You may be wondering, what is he doing with a bunch of Ethernet cable? Well, there's this thing called LCC, or Layout Command Control, and you can use it to do a whole bunch of things with layouts, like signals detection, stuff like that, control of tortoises, all kinds of things. And this is how you connect the module. So there you have some of the bus wiring for my layout. The blue and white is the DCC power bus. I probably have told you about that in a previous video, so I won't dwell on that a lot. But the reddish brown piece there that's around it, kind of coloring it, is what they call a CT coil. And that detects current flow. It is soldered on to some very thin wire, which happens to be more of this Ethernet cable that I have handy here. The twisted pair of the Ethernet cable is pretty much perfect for this kind of connection. If you have a lot of coils in various areas, you can connect it and strip back the shielding on the wire and kind of have a bunch of wire that's already bundled. So that's handy. That is also stripped on the other side, and it comes into this board over here where there's some screw terminals there. The green board on the right is called a BOD8. This is made by RR Circuits, and it is connected into the brains of the LCC system, known as a Tower LCC. The Tower LCC uses a CAN bus to communicate between some of its modules. That would be plugged into this device over here, which is another RR Circuits piece. It's a PowerPoint, and it's also an LCC to LocoNet gateway. So if I wanted to connect this to my Digitrax system, I could do it with that. The other functionality that this little box has right here is a USB port. The USB port will allow me to connect this to a computer, a PC, or a Mac running the JMRI system. And that will allow me to take the information that the system is giving and use the computer to create displays or send feedback back through the system and program these boards to do special functions. Like I said, I'm no expert on this topic, but I do really look forward to being able to do some block detection. Right now, you'll notice it doesn't look like there's much going on, and of course, there's no display for this, so that's what it is. But I have on the track above us here, I'm going to raise up the camera so you can see, the Burlington Northern Locomotive. And 2702 is right now outside of the block that is connected to this, to the block, the BOD8. So I'm going to bring back the camera, focus on the board, and I'm going to run the locomotive forward. And you notice that light just came on. And what that basically means is that 2702 just entered the block. I'm going to go ahead and stop the locomotive and mute it so we don't have to talk over it. Using another board that's called a Signal LCC, I can then take what this gives me and output it to a signal with the addition of some other stuff as well, like the signal itself. And that will allow me to have the signal running. The other thing the system will do, like I said before, is it talks to a computer. And I can create a panel in the computer so that a dispatcher might be able to tell if there's a train in a block. So I'm going to rotate around a little bit here, and we're going to look off into the distance. Down there is the beginnings of my helix. Right now it's just built from the lower deck you see on the lower left to the middle deck you see on the upper left. And in the middle of that, there's actually enough room for a person to sit with a small computer. And so I'm thinking that I might have a dispatcher in there at some point. That's going to probably be years down the road, but it's something interesting nonetheless. With the RR Circuits Locanet gateway attached to my Mac Mini here, I've got the traffic monitor up, and watch those numbers on the monitor there. I'm going to back up. And there'll be another line up here, and there it is. So what I did was I ran the locomotive out of the block. Now we should see another block. There it goes right there. So you'll notice that at the very end of all this gibberish here is a string of numbers, and at the end of the number it says 06, 07, 06, 07, etc., etc. That's happening as the locomotive enters or leaves the block. And the whole event ID right there is basically like an IP address for a computer. It's individually coded so that the whole system knows exactly what device that's coming from. Okay, well there's one. I guess 4 more to go. Interesting what Faller has done here. I was looking at this and you see the part that sort of has that X there. And I thought that I wasn't really able to find it, that maybe it was even missing from the kit. Well, then I sort of decoded the way this works. And I discovered that this big piece right here with all the sprues on it, or all the little pieces on it, actually has that part on it. It's 4-1. And it's right there. That one and its partner is just above it. So I decided that I'm going to put this together a little bit differently. I'm going to put together the bigger stuff first and kind of lay those out where I want them and figure out if I actually want to build this thing the way the kit is built. I don't think the answer is going to be yes, because that won't really look like my plant that I'm trying to model. But a lot of these parts are going to be handy for making this thing have the overall look I'm going for. I decided that not all of the chemical plant is going to fit over here, and that was more of a duh than a decision. But anyway, in order to capture what I want to capture, I decided that I better kind of get my act together and figure out what's what, or not necessarily what's what, but what size things are. So using Google Earth on my iPad and a photo that I printed out of the overall thing, you can kind of see it's kind of big. There's a lot of structures, a lot of tanks. So I'm going through and I just wrote the numbers for the buildings, whatever. It doesn't matter what, what they actually do. It's just, I want it to look a certain way. And then I'm using Google Earth to actually kind of get an idea how big each building is. From that, I'll see what kind of compression that I need to do and what I need to actually leave out to make this work. So, just getting started. And sometimes
you got to ask yourself what you're getting into. But this is something I want to do, so I wanted to show you guys. Here's the kind of a not to scale drawing with some measurements to give me some reference of how big what I'm calling, building 1 and building 2 are. Building 1 is a rectangle. Building 2, as you can see by that drawing, is, well, I don't think there's a geometrical name for what that shape is because it's got a lot of sides, and it's not a parallelogram because they're not all parallel. But anyway, so there you go. That's that. I counted like 15 buildings, and that doesn't include the tanks, of which I think I said before I counted something like 25 before I stopped. Anyway, so that gives you an idea of where I'm at there.
Over here, I've continued to assemble some of the pieces of the Faller kit to see see how they look and see where they end up in the plant. I also was looking at things and realized that there's some tanks in there that look like propane tanks. Luckily, I have a kit that is propane tanks, so that should take care of that. And last but not least, there's some foam core pieces over here. And the foam core pieces will be handy for building the mock-up structures for some of the buildings, so I can see how big they are when I actually get them close to HO scale. And we'll see how that looks. And then that'll give me a better idea of how much I need to compress some things. Anyway, thanks again for watching, guys. Hope you all enjoyed the episode 7, and we'll catch you next time.